Okay. So today we're going to be working on something that you have seen before in your math journals. And I know that you have in the past done what's called standard form, word form, and expanded form. You have done this before, just not to the extent that we're going to do it today. In the past, when you have done expanded form, and I know this because, again, I taught it in second grade, so you can't act like you've never seen it. This is not doing anything when I'm touching it. That's kind of irritating. With standard form, which is what you see anytime, standard form would be like 567. Standard form is just your normal everyday number. Morgan, what are you doing? Word form would be how you say it. I said it when I wrote it, 567. So word form is you writing it how you say it. So 567. Now you notice I left out something that people have a tendency to say, and that's the and. This is not 567. When you say the word and in a number, that means there's a decimal somewhere. There's not a decimal in this number except for at the end. Is there anything behind that decimal?
No.
No. So you shouldn't be saying and. 567. Now, I'm not fussing. I'm just saying that that's the correct way to say a number. And you'll notice a lot of people say numbers wrong. When you know the right way to say something, you'll pick up on a lot of people saying things wrong. Kind of like misplaced apostrophes and commas and stuff. When you learn the rule and you stick to doing it right, you'll notice a lot of people doing it wrong. And hopefully you won't be as weird about it as I am. Okay. Being weird is sometimes, kind of annoying. Okay. So then with expanded form, the way that you've done it in the past is you just took it form and you just did 500 plus 60 plus 7. This should look familiar because I already taught you this. Sheldon. So we are taking it and we're breaking it down one step further. And this is where using your place value chart is going to make it easier. So on this one, the directions are taking it from word form and putting it in standard form, or taking it from fraction form and putting it in standard form. So I'm going to show you how to do it. And using your place value chart can be very helpful. So here, 4 thousandths, THS. That is not 4,000. So when you look up here, where do I see 1,000 with a THS?
At the end.
Way over here behind the decimal. So I've got 4 thousandths. When you're dealing with decimals, my decimal name takes the name of that last digit where it ends up. That's why my 4, it doesn't look, so that looks like 400 anyway, but it wouldn't look like this, 4,000, like when we have 4,000 over here, it doesn't look like that behind the decimal. When you're working in decimals, the 4 has to end up underneath the thousandths place. It'll make more sense as I do it more. It's only the first time I brought it up. So don't be like, oh, I don't get it. Let me do it more than once. Okay? Relax, breathe. I've only done it once. The more I do it, the more you'll get it. Okay? Breathe, breathe, breathe. Okay. Don't hyperventilate. Okay. So, just like what we were saying before, no empty pockets. I can't have these blank. Since it's only 4 thousandths, my 4 has to be in the thousandths place. It's not saying anything with that 4. That's why there's 0 and a 0. 4 thousandths. That's why that's there. Here I have 24 thousandths. What does 24 look like? 2, 4, right? 2, 4. So when I know that 24 looks like this. So, and then I've got my, what I call my spitter. I'm sticking out my tongue. 24,000. Sometimes if I say it, I accidentally spit on people. Front row, I'm sorry. 24 thousandths. Now, my decimal has to take the name of where this last digit ends up. So where is my 4 going to be? What? In the thousandths. So my 4 is here, but it's still 24. 24 with the 4 in the thousandths place. With no empty pockets. Slowly, maybe a smidge. It's only the second one. So when I write it, because these are all where the decimal is. That teeny tiny, no numbers go in that little thing. Okay? So that's the standard form of this. Because the 4 is in the thousandths place, and that's 24. 24 with the 4 in the thousandths. 24 thousandths. It's not just 24. For it to be 24, it would have to be over here. 24. But it's behind the decimal. 1 and. What does and mean? Means a decimal. So where is the 1? In front of the decimal. 1 and, this is where you have to be a real stickler for the and. 324. What does 324 look like? Go ahead and tell me. 3, 2, 4. So I'm going to do 3, 2, 4. I don't want to write it up here yet, so I don't want to put it in the wrong. You guys have dry erase, so it's okay. 3, 2, 4. 324 thousandths. So where's my last number having to end up? In the thousandths. My last number is 4. So my 4 has to end up there, and it's 324. 1 and 324 with the 4 in the thousandths place. 1 and 324 thousandths. You need to start practicing when you see decimals, saying them correctly, not 1.324. Start practicing saying them right. 1 and 324 thousandths. Try not to say point. You're not always going to get it right, but it's a good habit because it helps you when you get to the fraction form to automatically convert it to a decimal. 608 thousandths. So we know we're dealing with 608. 608. I hope you know that. 608 thousandths. Is it in front of the decimal or behind the decimal?
Behind.
Behind, because we're thousandths. So what is going to be in the thousandths place?
8.
8. Because the very last digit, the very last number has to be in the thousandths place, which happens to be an 8. 608 thousandths. Slowly, maybe, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And if you forget when you get home, you can always pull it up and watch it again. I know that some people are like, I'll watch this with my grandma and she learned something. I heard that from last week. So watch it again with your parents. They may go, I didn't know that's how you said decimals. Sometimes I teach lessons and I go, oh, that's where they do that. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, okay, that's right. So here we have 608 thousandths. I want you to write on your dry erase what you think this one would look like. 608 thousandths. 608 thousandths. We have an 8, an and. What does the and mean? Decimal. So if you wrote this again, guess what?
It's wrong.
It's wrong. 600. And 8 in the thousandths place. That's why you don't need to say 608. Because it's not really 600. You know, you need to get out of the habit of saying 608. 608. This is 608. Because and really means a decimal. It's a hard habit to break, but and means a decimal. I mean, I hear grown-ups do it, so it's, you know, I know grown-ups, you know, get apostrophes wrong in IT, apostrophe S, which means it is, does not mean possessive. So, 600, that's one of my pet peeves. 608 thousandths. Now, this one right here, how would you say this? Instead of 46 over 1,000?
No.
I mean, that's how some people say, that's the lazy fraction. That's the lazy way to say a fraction. How would you say it the right way as a fraction? Jacoby. 46 thousandths. How would you write that in standard form? 46 thousandths.
0.046.
Okay. You put a 0 there. Is it wrong if you put a 0 here?
No.
No. This means there aren't any ones. So we have 46, which is what you need. and a 6 in the thousands place. So it needed to be thousands. Good job. How would you say that mixed fraction? Yes, ma'am. 1 and 1/2, right? 1 and 1/2. So when you hear and, what does that mean? Decimal. So when we have 3 and 946 thousandths, how would you write that in standard form? It's a lot easier with the place value chart, right? I know. Miss Strickland is brilliant. I'm not. I'm just kidding. Aiden. Raise your hand up. You were kind of going like this. You kind of were. Yes, sir.
3 and 946 thousandths.
Oh, you got it. I was like, I know how you say it. Yes. 3 with the decimal, 946. 3 and 946 with 6 in the thousands place. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, do that one. If you're going to have to go, before we went from words or fraction form into standard, now we're going to have to go from standard into words. So what I do is I use the place value chart again, and the way I do it is I just write it exactly how it is here onto the place value chart. And so I'll just copy it where I've got the 0, the decimal, the 0, 0, and the 5. And so I look and see what I've got. I look and see where my last number is. And I have to remember that behind the decimal, it takes the name of the very last number behind the decimal. So if I look here, I've got nothing in front of the decimal, so it's not even, I don't have to say 0 and. It just is what it is. So I just look here and go, oh, I've got a 5, and that's it. So it's 5, and I look up, it's 5 thousandths. Is it 5,000?
No.
No, it's 5 thousandths with the THS, and that's it. But the place value chart makes it really easy, because if you look over here, then you might be trying to go, okay, is it tenths? Is it hundredths? What is it? If you look at the place value chart and you write it on the place value chart, all you have to do is look over and look up. and see where it is. You don't have to try to remember anything. It's right there. So then all I have to do is 5. Nope. Let's see, I threw myself off. Thousandths. And then there's no reason for it to be misspelled because it's right there in front of your face. 5 thousandths. When you're copying it, you shouldn't be misspelling it. So when I look at this one, I've got 2 numbers in front of the decimal. 1 and a 1. A decimal. 0. 3. 7. So in front of the decimal, what is this number? Okay, you tell me. 11. What do I do when I have that decimal?
And 37 thousandths.
Right. See, it's. I hate using that word. I don't want to say it again.
Easy.
Thank you. You said it. It's not as complicated as you thought. It looks harder than it really is. Yes, ma'am.
Why don't you like the easy?
Because I say it a lot, and like I think that maybe the people who still struggle with it are going, maybe I'm not as smart as I thought I was. I don't want people to feel bad if they're still struggling with it. Because I keep going, this is easy. This is, see how easy this is? And I don't want people to feel bad if they might still be getting it wrong. It's not as difficult that I think a lot of you, when you first look at something, and you go, woo, and you freak out, and then I show it to you, and you go, oh. But it's made simpler if you use the chart. If you don't have the chart, it's harder. So then you've got 37. You just look back here and you go, oh, that's 37. Then it's 37 what? You go to the 7, you look up, thousandths. So it's 11 and because you have the decimal. What's back there? 37. Takes the name of the very last digit and you look up thousandths. That's how you put it in word form. And then right there in front of the decimal, 403, decimal 608. So how do I write what's in front of the decimal?
403.
Is it 403?
403.
403. You have to be really careful because you don't want to say 403 and. See what I'm saying? Because you've got a decimal. You don't want to say 403 and 608, whatever. So you only want to use and one time if there's a decimal. It's a really hard habit to break if you've been doing it since you started saying numbers. Okay? So I'm not fussing it. I'm not like going, I'm just saying try to get out of that habit. So just 4, because now that we're throwing decimals in there, you don't want to say and when you're saying a number. 403. And 6, because like if you said it the way that you guys normally say numbers, you would be saying 403 and 608 thousandths. See what I'm saying? You don't want to say that. You want to say 403 and, because that means there's a decimal, 608 thousandths. You only need to say and one time because there's only one decimal. If you're saying and every single time you want to, that means there's 3 decimals in there. There's only one. And 608, because you just say it like you normally would say it. This is 608 behind that decimal. 608. That's what you see back here. That's what you say. 608. And then you take the name of that very last digit. Thousands. Yes, sir?
Did you have more than one decimal in a number?
No. Because all you're doing is where you're separating your whole units to your fraction units. There's only one decimal. You have one decimal. Your dollars from your change. You're going to have one decimal. So there's no yeah, but, well, what if? No. Some things in math you can kind of go, well, sometimes, well, maybe. No. Decimal. I mean, if you can find something, I mean, you can have multiple commas, but I've never seen more than one decimal. Personally, I've never seen more than one decimal, and I've taken a lot of higher math. So, okay. So, I've also touched on this with the expanded form, where you're kind of going, what? Calm yourself. It looks hard, but if you use the place value charts, it's easier than it was when you were in second, third, fourth grade. So, where before, if you had 525 and you had to go, okay, 500 plus 20 plus 5, and you had to try to remember what those place values are, take your number. And see, now that you've got the decimals in there, it's more difficult. Use the place value chart. Okay? I would even use the place value chart. And I've been doing math a lot longer than you. Use the place value chart. Take the number, and see, I'm going to even ignore all this. I'm not even looking at it. I'm pretending this is not here because I'm going to do it again. Because they're telling you to do what I'm telling you to do. Take this number, 35 and 827 thousandths. Write it on the place value chart, exactly like the number. 35 and 827 thousandths. Just like you had to do, I don't know, word form or something. Okay? Now, what they're wanting you to do, and when I start doing it, you're going to go, oh, yeah, because I showed you this for Math Journal once or twice. It may not have sunk in, but it's there. Where before, you would just do 30 plus 5. Now we're breaking it down further. All you have to do is look at this and see how many copies of each place value you have. So I'm going to do 3 copies of what place value?
10.
Yeah. 3 copies of 10. So it's 3 times 10. Where before we would do 30, isn't 30 3 copies of 10?
Yeah.
3 in the tens place. So it's just 3 copies of 10. That's all we're doing. We're just taking it and making it this much harder than what you've learned before. Almost all of the skills that we do in 5th grade are just this much harder than what you've already learned. We're taking what you already know and making it that much harder. So I'm putting it in parentheses because I don't like this big, long line of mush. I like separating my stuff. Because then when you look at this one, some of y'all were going, ugh. I like my stuff separated. Okay? I know, y'all like, really? I could never tell. So 3 copies of 10 plus what of what? Go ahead and tell me.
5 times 1.
5 copies of 1. All you have to do is look at what's in there. How many copies of it? Place value chart makes this. Easier. I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm going to say it's easier than trying to use your head. 5 copies of the ones place. Because when you get down to the decimals, it's way more complicated. That's why I like using the place value chart. Especially if you have it. Especially if you have a number that has a 0 in it, then you don't really know what to do with that 0. And some people kind of freak out on it. So then I have 8 copies of the tenths. Now, there are times that on tests or homework, they'll ask you to do it with a fraction, or they'll ask you to do it with a decimal, or they'll just say, like they make you do it. That's why on your sheet, I had you write the decimal up top. Because right now, we're dealing with decimals. We haven't really dealt with the fractions. You might want to put your head up because I've already seen your eyes close a couple times. Look like you're about to fall asleep on me. Like totally sit up. Sit up. Okay. So 1/10 is the same as 1/10. 100th is the same as 100. 1,000th is the same as 1,000. So when you're writing it, you can choose to either write the decimal or the fraction. It really doesn't matter because they're both the same thing. So 8 times 1/10, 8 copies of the tenths place. 2 copies of the hundredths place. Oops. Plus 7 copies of the thousands place. Using the place value chart just makes it a lot simpler to look at because you just look at the number and look up. Look at the number and look up. Look at the number and look up. It tells you how many copies of each place value you have. Rather than you trying to figure out what place value is that. All you have to do is write it in and look up. So if I have 249 thousandths, do I have to write anything for these over here?
No.
0 copies of things.
No.
No. But I have to start over here. 2 copies of what?
10 tenths.
The tenths. Plus what?
4 copies of the hundredths.
4 copies of the hundredths. Plus
9 copies of the thousands.
9 copies of the thousands. And that's it. It's just expanded form a little bit further down than what y'all had to do before. And then, I guess I need to. Okay, so here it's just where they take it and they do it the other way, where they give it to you in expanded and they want you to do it in standard. So what I don't like about this is when I put the stuff in parentheses, the entire copy part in parentheses. They put the place value in parentheses and that's it. So for me, this kind of bothers me. So I might go through and do my parentheses. You see where they've got the plus signs?
Yeah.
That's where it's broken up. So, I mean, you can always go, okay, there's 7 times 10 plus. There's 4 times 1 plus. 6 times the 10 plus. 9 times the 100. So, you know, you can always go through and group your stuff. Because I don't like that stuff being all one long number sentence. It's too much for me. You do it however you want to do it. I just know what works for me, and that has a tendency to be what works for y'all too. So, whatever. So, all you have to do, where I've got 7 copies of 10, what do you think you need to do where it's got 7 copies of 10? What do you think you need to do, Bailey?
Multiply 7 times 10.
I can, but where I'm using the place value chart. If I'm trying to find the standard form of the number, what do you think would be a good way to use the place value chart? Yes! Okay, I got 7 copies of 10. Bam! Put a 7 in there. Doesn't this make it so much easier? You should go, yes, Miss Strickland. Thank you. You're brilliant.
Yes, Mr. Thank you. You're brilliant.
Oh, okay. 4 copies of 1.
4.
Where?
And then 1.
In the ones. Now you have to be really careful because sometimes they'll leave out a place value. That's where this is really important because people will just smoosh everything together and have the wrong number. 4 copies of 1, go to the ones place, stick it in there. 6 copies of 1/10. Go to the tenths place, write a 6. 9 copies of 100. Write a 9. 2 copies of 1,000. Write a 2. And now it's giving you your standard form, and you didn't even have to really think about it. You just wrote down what it told you to write down. It didn't require a whole lot of multiplying or a whole lot of extra thought. You were like, oh, put this here, put this here, put this here, put this there, done. Because if you look at this one, right here, you've got to be really careful because it has 5 times 100. So I'm going to go to the hundreds place and write a 5. 3 times 10. So I'm going to write a 3. 8 times 1/10. 8 times 1/10. So 8 needs to go here. But I know a lot of people who would write 8 there. And I totally get the wrong thing. 9 times 001. So it should go there. So if you don't have the place value chart, I would get a number that looked like this. Is that what the number's supposed to look like?
No.
No. So place value chart. Now, am I done with this number?
No.
No. So I'm missing something. What should I do? Selena, add the zeros. I should not have empty pockets in between my numbers. I cannot have an empty space between a number and a decimal. And I cannot have an empty space between 2 numbers back here. I have to add my zeros. Now that number's right. 530 and 809 thousandths. Now that number's right. But this is definitely wrong. So using the place value chart is crucial. Make sure you get the right number. Okay.